Hi there, this is Jenny Walker from DigiGoods and Printables, ELA. Welcome to Argumentative Essay Writing, segment number 3. Here you will learn to gather your evidence that supports your claims. This video is sort of a continuation of the previous video. The preliminary evidence gathering is part of the pre-writing process. You might ask yourself, why would we gather evidence for the body paragraphs in the pre-writing section? Simple. We do this early to prevent you from writing your first paragraph and developing your thesis and then realizing there isn't adequate evidence to support your topic. A lot of students have had to scrap their work and start over upon realizing they didn't have strong evidence with plenty, or a strong topic with plenty of evidence to support their topic. So rather than scrapping everything and starting over, we're going to make sure from the beginning that you have plenty of evidence out there on the interwebs to support your topic. First of all, scroll down to the next slide, which for me this is slide number 24, but it might be a little bit off for you. Watch this excellent video on using reasoning and evidence to support your claims. This will help make writing your essay much easier because you'll understand why evidence is so important and exactly how it's used. Side note, in this video, the speaker refers to a claim as an assertion. Just know that these words mean the same, claim and assertion. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video and begin watching the video on your slide. So now that you've watched the video and you've seen some of the examples, let's focus on 3 of the examples of types of evidence that he mentioned in the video. Another side note, this video that you just watched also discusses elaboration and explanation of the evidence. For now, we're only going to focus on gathering the evidence and we'll save the elaboration for later. Okay, so types of evidence. Argumentation is all about convincing your audience. Therefore, it's important to choose the strongest evidence available that supports your claim. Here are some types of evidence that you might find to use in your evidence. Number 1, a fact. This is something that has been proven. And here's an example of a fact as used in evidence. According to the official government website on bullying, www.stopbullying.gov, quote, most kids are bullied in middle school and the effects may last well into adulthood or forever, end quote. Another type of evidence is a statistic, a fact that is represented in numbers. This could be represented in percentages or whole numbers. Here's an example. The CDC reports, quote, excuse me, smoking causes 480,000 deaths per year in the United States, end quote. Notice the quotation marks are around only the evidence. And a third type of evidence is a quote. This is a valid statement made by an expert on the matter. This could be directly cited or paraphrased as long as credit is given. So in other words, when you're quoting somebody, you can reword their words into your own words. This is called paraphrasing. And you don't use quotes around these words. But if you quote their words exactly as they said them, then you must use quotation marks. Here's the example. According to Dr. Norton from the American Society for Pediatrics, quote, children who are exposed to lead paint suffer from slower brain functioning, end of quote. Okay, let's do a quick recap about quotation marks. Notice in each of the cases that the quotation marks are placed around the evidence only and not placed around the source of the evidence. Quotation marks indicate that words inside of them belong to somebody else. If you're paraphrasing or rewording, you do not have to use quotation marks. Again, quotation marks are an indication that you are using somebody else's words. But here's the thing. You must always tell where the words came from, as in the examples in this video. For instance, we know that the quote, an example from number 1, came from bullying.gov. And the evidence from the example number 2 came from the CDC. And the evidence from example number 3 came from Dr. Norton of the American Society of Pediatrics. Likewise, you must also reveal your source as well. Where do you find your evidence? This requires more research. Most likely your research will be done on the internet. You can look for articles, documentaries, podcasts, videos, or any literature that provides valid evidence for your topic. Look for literature or media that has been written by experts in the field of your topic. You can find good evidence on procon.org, but you should not use the same source for all of your evidence. Unless your teacher tells you otherwise, you should find 3 to 5 separate resources for your paper. This number will change as you get older and become a more advanced writer. Just follow the directions of your teacher because your teacher knows you best. Another important thing to remember is that most of your paragraph should be your own words. So you really want your evidence to be just brief and concise. You might find a quote that has 5 to 10 sentences, but you may only need to use 1 or 2 sentences to get your point across. Or maybe you only need to use a part of a sentence even. Only use the amount of evidence that you absolutely need to support your claim. As a general rule of thumb, your essay should be no more than 20 to 30% of somebody else's words. The slides that are provided here give you space to store your evidence. You can type right in these boxes. This slide is for evidence that supports reason number 1. So you're only looking for evidence that's going to support your first reason. You may need to go back up to your reason slide, and if you forget what they are, and have a look to see what your reasons are. Let's say your reason number 1 was homework helps students learn faster. So now you're looking for evidence that proves that homework helps students learn faster. So you will search to find your evidence, and then you can type what you find in these boxes. In this box to the right, you can make a note of what type of evidence it is. That's kind of optional, but is it a fact or a quote or an example? The next slide down shows a place for you to store your evidence for reason number 2. And the slide beyond that gives you a place to store your evidence for reason number 3 if you have a reason number 3. Remember, some of you are only providing 2 pieces of evidence, so you may not see this third slide at all. And then if you slide down to the slide for tracking your sources, you'll see a place to put all of your source information. You'll want to track these sources directly after you write each piece of evidence. Otherwise, you will have a difficult time trying to remember where you found your evidence and digging back through the internet to find your sources again after you have done work is a pain. You're going to need to give credit to these sources, and you will have to have them. So notice on the tracking slide, there are boxes for 3 pieces of evidence for each of your reasons. You may not use all of these boxes. Your teacher may ask you to provide only 1 or 2 pieces of evidence for each reason. Remember, always follow the directions of your teacher because your teacher knows you best. Also, you may need to adjust the font sizes in any text boxes in this workshop so that you can fit your text comfortably. Now that you have gathered your evidence, later you will use this information in the next section to create your thesis statement. That concludes this segment of argumentative essay writing. I'll see you in the next video. If you found this video from my YouTube channel, you can find a link to the workshop in the description. Teachers, join our Facebook group to discuss all things digital learning. You can find that link in the description as well. Happy learning and happy teaching!